Hey everyone, welcome back. It is Icon. Thank you so much for checking out another episode of Esports Analysis. Today, we are on board with PRESTINNI, and boy, do we have a surprise or a treat for you. So, before I go ahead and talk about the breakdown and the analysis of this map in particular, over the course of the 5 maps, I just want to go ahead and give you guys a rundown. So Chicago did end up winning this series in terms of the hard points. They won the hard points 3 maps to 2 maps. And the 2 maps that they lost were really close. They had opportunities to win the maps that they lost, but they just didn't clutch up and get the kills when they needed to. But those maps were like 250 to 230, the 2 that they lost. But then even the ones that they won were pretty close also. This one is really close. PRESTINNI goes huge. He leads the lobby, leads his team. So looking forward to breaking down that gameplay for you. So with that, as we go ahead and hop into the actual analysis, one thing that I'll say just real quick before we get into that is that I'm going to talk in this one, but I'm not going to talk as much because I really do want to focus on his movements and his communication and how he's picking up where he's going, because all of that can be important, right? So it's not always just about flying around the map and doing whatever you want to do and getting kills and 3 pieces and stuff like that. It's also important to work with your teammates. So I just want to focus on that a little bit. But as we go ahead and rotate to P2 here, you'll probably have noticed by now that Chicago got those initial spawns that you really want to get, and then they ended up losing them. So on this map in particular, you get a spawn that's over by P2, you get a spawn that's by P5, and most of the time, I would say like probably 80-90% of the time, the team that gets that initial spawn ends up getting the majority of the time inside of P2. So if you're from Paris or a Paris fan, this is a really nice job so far, right? Because they started off on the wrong side of the hill. They were able to flip, and they have the lead, and they're probably going to get the last 20 seconds here. So by the time P1 is all said and done, they're probably going to have, or P2, by the time P2 is done, they're probably going to have about a 40-point lead, and that's huge considering they didn't have spawns to begin with. I do like the pressure here from PRESTINNI. Again, P3 goes to the opposite side of the map, so when it goes over there, you really want to do the best job that you can of spawn trapping the enemy team back where they were. Now, unfortunately for Chicago, they let Paris get out a little bit, but they are still fighting through those spawns. Let's see where PRESTINNI comes up here, because I think it's going to be... Okay, so they do still have spawns. So as it rotates from P3 to P4 to P5, a little bit of an ugly shots there from Preston, but as it rotates from P3 to P4 to P5, you do want to make sure you hold this spawn, and it's really important to lock down the P1, the warehouse side of the map, because that's the easiest route to get from P2 over to P5. If you can flank through that route, then you can flip spawns and you can get those back yellow spawns. And of course, those back yellow spawns are super important, because then the first money hill on this is P2, right? It's the best hard point in the entire game is P2. But after that, you want to get P5. Those are the 2 money hard points on this hill. So right now, of course, you want to try to get as many points as you can inside of P3 if you're Paris. But the more important thing is trying to set up spawns for P5. Let's go ahead. Let's pause real quick just so you guys can go ahead and let's break this down for you. So right now, Paris did have P2, right? And as it's about to rotate, of course, we're going from P3 to P4, but they're trying to set up for P5 right now. And if you're trying to set up for P5, you might think, well, let's go ahead, let's hit P3, let's try to get time, let's go top side of the map, let's try to get control up here. And all of that is good and well if you just want to send 1 or 2 people. But best thing to do here is try to flank through P1, try to go top and bottom L, right? You want to get L control on this side of the map. And then as soon as you get L control, that's when you push out to bottom yellow. And if you can get to this side of the map, once you get here and you get these spawns, then you can go ahead, you can start pushing the top side of the map. So if you have these spawns, then you can go ahead and push it out, push out mid, and try to contest P4. If you get those bottom spawns and you push out the top side of the map, that's going to put Chicago over here. And while you might give up, I don't want to say the majority of time, but while you might go negative on the P4 hill, that's going to offset because you're going to get most of the time inside the P5 hill. So if you are Paris at this point in time, you're really trying to push through the bottom of the map, trying to flip spawns because you want to have that time as it rotates to P5. So let's go ahead. Let's hop back into it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to listen into the team comms sooner than we normally do. Most of the time, I talk through the entire first set of rotations. I try to explain what's happening strategy-wise, but I really feel like with the way this map goes, it's important to hear everything that they're talking about, how Preston is communicating, especially RCs and some of the other people that are kind of their IGLs. So with that, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to still chime in, of course, where I feel like it's most important. Nice two-piece there from Prestini, and let's listen in to the Chicago team comms.
You got it. Look at middle. I'm looking middle with you.
Two on time, guys.
Raymond? Yeah, Raymond over here.
Three there.
Door. We played that hill really well, dude. Good shit. Let's
On our wall,
right
dead.
side,
Where's back up?
Two more rolls.
One thing you might also hear, that's Chicago's coach, right? That's Sender right there that was just giving them a little bit of advice. So he's in the team speak. He's talking to them. He's giving them advice. Of course, he won't be there during tournaments and whatnot, but with a new roster, sometimes that can be something that's super beneficial, right? You have somebody that's looking at the map overall, making call outs, because as he's calling out, now all of a sudden you can get a little bit of a better idea where people should be and what strategy you should go forward with from there. Let's go ahead. Let's listen back in.
They gotta look for me.
They're spawning like tires, dude. They're
Three on green, yes.
One low left, Zed, dead.
One more top white, guys.
Low left, dead.
25 seconds. Someone get out.
You know what? I want to go ahead. I want to pause this real quick because I absolutely love what Prestini's doing here. I know I'm breaking it down. It is what it is. But they already have the P5 spawns. They have control of P5, right? Most of the time, you'll see people try to get kills in this cut. You'll see people go top heaven. And then he'll try to get, you know, the jump up from over here by graffiti wall. And then they'll also send somebody kind of towards the bottom of the map to watch this cut. And that's kind of like the base setup here. The problem with this setup is that if Paris is able to get through and get back here kind of towards bottom yellow, then now all of a sudden your defenses have been broken. What you just saw from Prestini right there, I absolutely love. So you'll notice that Prestini was all the way up here by P4. And as Paris was jumping over this wall and trying to loop behind, he was just shooting them in the back. And that's what you do to really max out time on a hill. If we're looking at the score, it's already 120 to 72, and the last 24 seconds of P5 are probably going to end up going to Chicago. So if you're an amateur out there, you're playing CDL playlist or whatever, of course you want to get time, but if you can get control of this and you get a set of team kills or whatever, then push out a little bit more, because if you can get kills in these regions here, then now all of a sudden you are just putting less pressure on the hill. There's really less to defend. So just kind of keep that in mind. Let's go ahead. Let's listen back in. Let's turn up the team comms.
I'm in first. Should I stay in
Cutting
first?
off middle.
I'm hiding.
He's already new.
They're already new on me, guys.
I wanted him.
I'm soaking this shit.
Rob, they should
No one fork, no one fire. Two fire.
There's one fire there.
Yeah, two fork, please. I'm just staying alive with you guys.
Yeah, good
Just
job,
get in
bro.
new,
Good
guys.
job.
Get in new.
Yeah, we're good now.
Can they be new?
Yeah,
No.
they played
Now
to
they
me.
can, now they
They
can.
can be new now.
He's in hill, close left, dead.
Get your...
Go Trophy and Hill person.
You're probably noticing that Preston's his team comms are a little bit ahead of the gameplay. That's maybe something that's just a little bit annoying to listen to. But right now, if you're Paris, you're not really in all that bad a shape, right? If you can get some time inside of P1 and you can get a ton of time inside of P2, all of a sudden it's going to be like a 10, 15, 20-point ball game. Of course, they do have to get in and contest this, but it's not over, right? Just hold down P2 and then do a better job in P3, 4, and 5 on the second set of rotations. That should be their game plan moving forward. Let's go ahead. Let's listen in.
Another one in, two. Two door.
I went left, guys.
Jump.
Try to push out.
He's
So I can
already
go
got
Scaff.
26
Okay.
kills, by the way.
Scaff. I'm looking scaff for you. Scaff, weak. I can't even see, bro. Good flash.
I'm just chilling.
Weak
Time.
scaff, weak scaff. Scaff dead.
Scaff.
Should be weak.
Door got me, kids.
Neither door, though.
Yeah, two at old.
They're... Hold him, Grouch dead.
Gaff dead.
Nice, good up.
I
I'm
see
one shot, I'm one shot.
Yeah, I left. I'm
Just to kind of break down the last 70 seconds or so that we've just seen, Chicago put a lot of resources inside of P1 and not so many resources towards trying to flip spawns. And that's not that terrible, right? Because the thing is, you're probably not going to have a great chance of flipping spawns anyways. So if you lose P1 and then you compound that by losing P2, now all of a sudden you're giving up 70, 80, 90 points, right? So Whereas if you go ahead and try to just get points inside of P1, inside a warehouse, and you give up the 50 or 60 points inside of P2, now you might only be going -10, -20 over those two hills. Whereas if you gave up 30 seconds inside of P1 and you gave up 60 seconds inside of P2, you'd be going -90. So a little bit of damage control, a little bit of strategy there. But I think it's a nice job by them overall.
Slant, one shot, slant, one shot. Middle pillar's dead. No one slant, one shot. Tools dead.
We're crate. Casemate's low yellow.
Top green.
Top third.
Stand on you, absolute.
No, I don't even.
I'm going to flank green. I'm flanking green.
Top green.
Got me. Top green yet.
Top green.
Let me go ahead. Let me pause this for you guys just real quick because this is something that we don't see very often. Right now, Preston was obviously over here by top AC, right? And as he was there, since they were pushing bottom P1, Paris was spawning up at the top side of P2. So as this is rotating from P2 to P3, a lot of teams will really try to push bottom L and top L. Like we talked about before, they'll try to do this so that they can get the back yellow spawns. But if they know that they're spawning on the top side of the map, this distance right here could take an extra 10 seconds, right? And while you're making that trek, you're giving up those 10 seconds inside of P3. So instead of doing that, what Paris did is they pushed out over towards slant and they jumped up towards top P5. So if they could get up here in top heaven, then just get kills from here, they can sneak around, right? They can kill P3 from behind. This is an alternate route. So since Chicago was pushing the bottom side of the map so much, Paris just took what Chicago gave them and pushed the top side of the map. Really like that play there. We'll see if it pans out for him.
I don't see top green. I don't see top green.
Graffiti.
Graffiti dead.
Last
Hey,
guy's
jump
on the
up.
jump up spot.
Watching the left.
Blue van, Den's weak.
It's smoked. He's fucking wall banging me, dude. Got one.
On
Right
time.
hill. That's one first.
Those on peeking me.
Hit him on time. Good job.
Be back
More to the
left.
left. More to the left, I think.
Tools absolute.
Nice.
Tools left side. He's challenging you.
I'm going middle.
I'm naded.
Ah, shit.
We can just go new guys. There's only one.
He got me. He fucking rat.
We're
back,
spawning
I'm one
first
in your
still.
crate. One in your crate.
dude.
And new, dead.
Just blood
I'm
time.
going
Top
greedy.
Nice
Very
green.
fair.
Top green.
Yeah, top green.
Kill one guy. Kill one guy.
I don't see him. Top green dead. Weak.
And
You
then
fucking
new.
headshot at me.
What the green? Backfire spawns.
Yeah, they spawn fire. That's one first.
This one first here.
Yeah, two there.
My
Ryan.
bad, bro.
We're good.
Yeah, I
Like,
went
One's
for bottom now.
tools, one. Yeah,
Tools
two
dead.
health.
No one in
we just
P3.
keep playing.
P3 dead.
Top three.
Fuck, I'm going.
There's gonna be tools on me.
One
shot.
on their side.
Top third.
There's
Top
third.
three.
Top
I
Oh, one's low left.
From fire, bro.
One's cop car.
Just to kind of keep track real quick, what you're seeing right now is Chicago put a lot of effort into trying to flip spawns to get those back P5 spawns. And while that was happening, they gave up another 20 seconds or so inside of P3 and P4. So right now, after P2, the score was like 207 to 130. So far, they've already given up 40 points inside of P3 and P4 combined. And it looks like they're just now getting control of those back spawns. There's already somebody inside of top P5. Let's see where PRESTINNI spawns right here. Probably P1, yeah. So they still haven't been able to successfully push that out. And now it's a 20-point game. So that's how quickly these hard points can change, right? Get P2 spawns, then do whatever you can to contest and try to get time inside of P3 and P4. And if you can flip, now all of a sudden everything's going to go your way. Let's listen back in for the finish here.
One shot.
Luka got me. He's top base still.
This fucking guy won't die, man.
Yo, they spawned out.
Yeah, there's probably
One shot. They all spawn bottom L.
One
going
hill,
back.
Slant, one hill.
Bottom L.
We have green.
One's in first.
Yeah, I got
Oh, we
it.
don't have green. Is he in first? Do we kill
One's in
him?
first. I'm on
Could be,
first.
could be.
We killed him.
Spawning green, guys. Spawning
I'm
green.
watching green
Ooh,
cross.
green,
Let me
watch
stop this right here. You just heard the last 10 seconds or so, they're asking, do we have bottom green? Why would they want to be asking if they have bottom green? So much fighting right now is happening down towards the bottom of the map, right? There's so many people towards bottom L. You just saw like 3 or 4 people go in and out in a bunch of gun battles, and they're asking if they have bottom green. Why would they want to know if they have bottom green? Because as Paris is spawning here, what's the easiest way to leak out, right? I want to try to win. Of course, I want to get all the time I can inside of P5, but I'm going to try to leak out and get behind, go to P2. If I can flip spawns here, contest on P1, now I can potentially win off of P2 on the third set of rotations. That's why they were making such a big deal about, do we have control of bottom green?
Green and one's tools. Top green, one shot then.
Nice.
Green OE, green OE.
Top
Stop
green.
green.
He just told me cross.
Jump out of green.
Jump
Dead.
They're still spawning green, guys.
Yo, tools came out dense.
I'm still watching green cross.
There's two middle right now.
Two
Yeah, I
mid,
was
some
on
mid.
Two
Yeah.
mid, two mid crates.
Oh, green, dude.
Look at mid crates.
Green.
Middle.
Three under mid
Got two
crates.
middle, got two middle. No one, bottom L, bottom L.
I think one pinched our door.
He's middle hop, middle hop.
We gotta win
We
out.
gotta win off
We
this.
gotta win off this hill.
Stay in their door.
He's white barrels then.
Still dead. Come on,
Nice.
shot.
You guys
Running
gotta
up
go.
hill.
No one middle, no, he's gonna be top L.
Just like that, when Prestini ends up coming up, where does he come up? He comes up by P5, by back yellow, because they didn't have control of top green, so they flipped, and now they're spawning out. That's why they're saying they have to win right now.
One back top
Both
AC.
of them
Don't see that, don't see that, don't see that.
Hill dead.
I'm flooding time.
Grab one more time, 100% shot.
Yeah, time dead.
Yo,
Top
scav,
AC,
scav.
AC, Luca, one
Top
shot.
scav.
Top AC, one shot, Luca.
AC got me.
One scav.
Gap and AC,
Yeah.
last two.
AC.
Scav
Challenge
absolutely.
outside.
Jumping down our door, Presti.
Hey, kill me our door. Kill me our door.
You gotta go fast.
One shot hill, dead, absolutely.
We can still win off this.
Oh, they're dead.
Oh,
Nice.
you
I'm
gotta
gonna try to
stay
sneak.
downstairs.
Yeah, one scav.
He killed
One
me.
dead, he went door, he went door.
Oh, he killed me.
I'm sneaking
One
by.
door, another one door.
I stuck by, I stuck by, I stuck by.
Presence there,
I stuck by.
Need
What a
Gap,
play.
Got one door.
Obviously, good one.
I made it to new anyway.
Wow.
That shit.
So
Yeah.
I actually
So,
didn't
I think
see
what
the
happened
last
is that,
10
bro,
seconds
we-
or so.
we-
Even
so on that
if they didn't win on top of P1 right there, which they ended up clutching up and winning inside of P1, but even if they wouldn't have won inside of P1, Prestini flanked behind them over by fire inside of P2, so they would have won even if they would have got contested inside of P1 and it would have went from there. Unbelievable play there towards the end. Just being head up, map knowledge, seeing somebody that was shooting them from the cross there, and then following them in behind, trying to flank around to P2. Prestini, 43 and 28. This is probably the best map that I've seen him play so far as a member of the Chicago Huntsmen. Envoy -4, Scump -2, Formal +2. RCD's -3. So down below, Luca. Man, Luca's been going off. Luca was 39 and 30. He had a tremendous outing at their last tournament. He was definitely the best on their team. So overall, pretty good map here from Chicago. So if you enjoy this sort of content, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. I put out brand new videos covering the Call of Duty League every single day. So make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you guys have any comments on this one, also put them down below. I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say about this one. Leave a like before you head on the way. It really helps out the channel with that, guys. Thank you so much. I will catch you in tomorrow's upload.